Sarah Webster, world record holder, 278 kilometers and some more. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I mean, this was an amazing race in so many ways. You were 3 women beyond the previous world record in the same race. If I start there, what did it mean for your race to have another 2 women up there?
I was a bit nervous because once I'd taken the lead, it was then my race to lose, and I knew full well they were coming back at me, so I couldn't give up and stop and walk however much I wanted to. I think I got it right pacing-wise, and I think actually, interestingly enough, your graph that you shared on, I think it was the US site, showed how interesting the pace was between the 3 of us and a couple of the other girls. It was very, very interesting, everybody's strategies.
Yeah, and your strategy is very interesting because your curve is so flat. It's almost even pace the whole race until the last couple of hours.
Yeah.
What was that your strategy?
Yeah, that pretty much was my strategy. I knew if I went out harder than that, I wouldn't make it. So there was no intention of going out any faster than that. I was absolutely determined to run my race and nobody else's. And it paid off. I was determined not to have breaks more than the odd toilet stop and just do a few squats and reset mentally. Those are the only breaks I had. And that was what paid off for me.
Yeah, and that is a strategy that many 24-hour runners might dream of, or they might even think that, no, it's not possible to run a 24-hour race that way. What made you so cool about that strategy?
Probably complete naivety, because I've only done one 24-hour race before, and I not blew up, but I had an injury at about 17 and a half hours and ended up walking for 4 hours. So the goal on that race was just to finish and still be going at the end of 24 hours. This time I was like, well, if you want to break the world record, you're not going to be able to walk, and therefore you've got to just keep running.
And that's another interesting thing you mentioned here, that you've only done one 24-hour race before. And as you said, you were running for 17 and a half hours, then still reached 243 something. Yep. But this was a whole other beast. I mean, you were so much ahead of that result. But what did you learn from that race that you could make use of in this race?
This race was easier in some ways because it was road as well as track. I think the last one, being on track, was much harder and harder mentally as well. I also think we had massive support in this race, and I had a very, very experienced crew with Jamie Pugh and his wife Sarah Jane, and the whole British team. Last time my daughter was crewing for me, she was amazing, but she's 17 and she's never crewed for anyone in her life before. So I still had to do quite a lot of the thinking, whereas this time we had the plan and they did the thinking for me and just kept feeding me. So, and I must have got something right because I felt a lot less sick this time than I did last time. So that helped me keep going. The weather was better in the sense it wasn't backbreakingly hot, but it was pleasant. And even through the night, we didn't get that cold. And then I think last time I tried to train it as though it was 100K and just did a bit more mileage. Whereas this time it was like, no, double days, split the miles up. And actually I ended up 6 weeks ago dislocating my shoulder, which meant I couldn't drive. So I had to run everywhere. So I was doing a bit more mileage, got about up to 130, but it was more the fact that I had to run slower because I had to run to work, usually with the dog, who doesn't run any more than 10-minute miling. So it split, I ended up training sort of 4 times a day because I would run to work, from work, to the gym, home, or to physio and home. So it really added up. And I think that was the difference between 24-hour running and the shorter ultras. Yes, I've lost speed. I hope I'll get that back if I want to do shorter ultras. But from the 24 hours, that was the right strategy. I think going in a lot fitter.
Yeah, there's a lot to discuss here. I mean, you mentioned short races because you have 2 bronze medals from 50K World Championship and 100K World Championship. You mentioned also that you run to work and back again, which means that, of course, like most other 24-hour runners, you also have a job. You're not a professional ultra runner. And also, you mentioned that you run maybe more, but at a slower pace
Yeah.
also to get ready for this. What in all this make you a world champion, considering that you have the experience from the 50K, the 100K, which is a very different kind of ultra running. But what now made you adapt to the different way of thinking that you have to go into a 24-hour race with?
I think it was the mindset that I'd been third twice. I didn't want to be third again. I was absolutely determined that that was my medal. I think it was nice because I was a little bit under the radar. Nobody really knew who I was. I was coming in very naively to the 24 hours. It could easily have been that I'm a 100K runner and just went off far too fast and blew up. There was I don't think I had the pressure on me that perhaps some of the other athletes had on them to perform. Um, and then, yeah, just mental determination. I'm not going to give up on this race. This is mine.
Yeah, because I met you in Bengaluru where before and after the 100K race, and I thought, okay, this woman, she comes late into ultra running. You're now 46. You're already twice on the podium, but then you mentioned, okay, what's next goal? 24-hour running, and I thought, okay, Sarah Webster, she looks like a woman. If she's determined to do it well, 24-hour running will definitely suit her. Did you feel that way, that 24-hour running would actually suit you well?
I like it because it's nice and slow. Um, I don't have to breathe very hard, which is nice. And it's quite civilized. Whether I like the fact it's so long, I haven't quite got my head round yet. I did half
It
joke.
was you who made it that long, at least in the
True. I did half jokingly that if I got the record, I would retire, but I don't think I'm ready to retire yet. I'm too competitive. So, yeah, but I have no idea what I can do next and whether, I will go back and do another 24 hours or whether that will be it. But it was good fun.
Yeah, and considering you say that you're so competitive and you started, I mean, you did your first ultra race in 2023 when you, well, unofficially broke the European record that you had to come back to the British Championships next year
Right.
to almost copy and get it official. But what did you do about this competitiveness earlier in your life?
I started running about age 8 and was just a club runner, mostly track, cross country because they made me do it. But yeah, mainly track and never really got beyond sort of club, little bit of national level, but didn't really make the transition through to senior level. And then I gave it all up in final year of university and concentrated on getting my degree. Um, and then I had probably about 10 years out before I went back to running when my daughter was 4. Um, and it was my husband's fault because he suggested that I did go back. And I was like, you didn't know me before I ran. And he's like, no, it's fine. I'll support you. And I was like, you have no idea what you're letting yourself in for. So, yeah, he's a bit
Because you
horrified.
knew that competitiveness of yours.
Yeah, and I knew now when I was a junior, the reason I didn't transition well to senior was that I wasn't willing to put the work in. You can get away with it as a junior. You can't as a senior. You have to put that work in. You have to put those miles in. And I wasn't willing to do that. I could tell that's what I needed to do. And so, yeah, once I started going up in distance, I dabbled in track again for a couple of years and represented the Isle of Man and the Island Games on the track, which was very nice because it gave me another little flavour of international competition, my first flavour of international competition. And then I moved back up to road, which and then I found the marathon, which was definitely better than anything I'd done before. And in proportion, if you look at my 10K and half marathon times, they're really quite poor compared to my marathon time. And then somebody sent a group message round saying if you wanted to get a GB vest for the 50K, you only have to get the marathon standard. And so suddenly I was thinking, well, I've got that standard, a GB vest. That would be beyond any dreams I would ever consider. So I didn't get it that year. There were people who were better than me. But running 8K further than a marathon didn't bother me in the slightest. So, and then I actually jumped up straight to the 100K. I didn't run a 50K in the end because of COVID. And then I was represented the Isle of Man in the Commonwealth Games. So, yeah, I ended up going straight to the 100K and then back to the 50K afterwards, which felt quite nice and short.
Yeah, and I mean, you didn't only just jump up to the 100K. You also came with a bang, crash, boom, bang, because you went straight to the elite level. When did you feel that, okay, I have come home?
Yeah, that 2023 race was such good fun because I didn't know anybody there. They didn't know me. You know, who on earth was this upstart running an hour faster than anybody else? I think there was just stunned silence from the ultra running world at the ACP. We were just, who is this woman and what on earth is she doing? And then by the end, it was like, actually, she's on something quite special. And breaking the British record was just absolutely beyond anything I naively said that I would break it, but I didn't think I would break it by that amount. That was definitely not on the plan.
But going back now to the 24-hour race, now we know what you can do in shorter races. And I mentioned you as how do you say, a wild card?
Yes.
Someone who is we need to look out for in this race. But you had only done one race, so we didn't really know if it would go this well. Were you as naive this time, or did you feel that, okay, I know what I did in 100K. I know I've even been on the podium in the 50K. I know I can break the world record this time.
I didn't know. Anything can happen in a race. But yes, I'd learned a lot from that first 24 hours. And yeah, the possibilities were there if everything came right and I got it right in terms of nutrition and physical fitness and definitely mentally. Then the signs were there that I had that potential to break it if I wanted to.
And nutrition, 24-hour racing requires a nutrition plan that works and that gives you enough energy without making any trouble to the stomach or anything. What did you do? I mean, tell us a bit about your nutrition plan.
So mostly I was using precision fuel and hydration gels, and occasionally their chews and a little bit of their drinks, mainly because they're kind enough to give them to me, but also because I like them. And then I was using their electrolytes. So that was the basic plan. I had planned to have a few sandwiches every now and then. I managed the first two and then failed on any of the rest of the sandwiches. So sandwiches went out the window. Haribo sweets, they were okay. The jelly snakes ones they're good. I can cope with those. And then generally towards the end, I switched away. I was still using gels, but I was also more using drinks like chocolate oat milk, ginger ale, and Coca-Cola. So yeah, bit of a mixture, but it seemed to work quite well.
Do you know how much carbs you had per hour?
And I haven't worked it out yet. The aim was about 60. I think probably on average I got to 50. I doubt I got to 60 in most of the hours, but yeah.
And that's also very interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting because these days, even 24-hour runners try to push it very high. Uh, you managed on 50 carbs run this far. Do you think if you could get even more into your stomach that it would make you even run even further, or is this what works for you in a 24-hour race?
I had some testing with Dr. Jamie Pugh at Liverpool John Moores University, and we worked out basically that I couldn't absorb much more than the 60 grams an hour. So that actually there was very little point in me trying to take it if I couldn't absorb it. So it doesn't say I can't train my gut in the future and on my muscles in the future to absorb it, but actually I stopped worrying about trying to get 90 grams in and feeling guilty. And certainly in the last 24 hours, I was trying to get nearly 90 in and was feeling very sick after 6 hours. So whether that was too much or not, I don't know, but I decided I wasn't even going to worry about it. I was just going to, I knew I needed more than 30 because I struggle in training if I'm down at 30, but I reckon 50 to 60 was a good aim, especially if I got 60 in the first half of the race. So yeah, and then the second half was less important, just keeping the energy levels up at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, there are lots of secrets to a great 24-hour race, apparently. And another thing that is interesting, I think, with ultra running and maybe 24-hour running in particular, is that, if I may say so, when you run, it doesn't look like you are the fastest runner in the world. But then when you look at the times and the curve, it's so flat, you just run at the same pace all the
Yes.
time. What do you think is your biggest strengths as a runner to be able to perform this well, actually all the way from 50K up to 24 hours?
I don't know. I think I just keep plodding on. Yeah. I mean, you look at my 10K times or um, half marathon times, and they're awful compared to you know, an international runner. Um, and even probably some of the faster ultra runners, my times are probably awful. But yeah, I could tell in training. I mean, I kind of wish I had gone into ultras a few years ago because I used to just bang out the mileage, and every single mile would be the same. And I would just keep going at that pace for mile after mile after mile. And I still can do that. And it kind of showed me, yeah, I didn't need to worry about, the distance. It was just keeping going at that same pace. And once you got into the right pace, and the clever thing was to find the right pace at the start or in the first couple of hours and then stick to it, because it's so easy to go off too fast and feel, no, this feels fine. It doesn't matter. And it does matter in a 24 hours.
Yeah, if you're cool enough to trust that strategy. Is your husband still happy that he let you do this?
He says he's very proud of me.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you also mentioned work. Tell us a bit about what are you doing for a living?
So I'm a vet. I work with mostly cats and dogs in a small first opinion practice in near Brighton, down on the southeast coast of England.
And if you didn't have, of course, you can get a lot of training to and from work, but how do you manage to get so much training into your life schedule that makes you perform at the world level in 24 hours? Because I mean, it must take a lot of effort, both for the training and to be able to get rest in between as well.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to be part-time. I work about 30 hours a week, and thank goodness I don't have to do any night shifts. They were definitely, I couldn't cope with night shifts and running. So I tend to finish at 1 o'clock, and if I don't run home from work, then I tend to come home and fall asleep for an hour and then go for a run. So I try and end up usually getting a nap in the afternoon before training from that point of view, or after training. So, but yes, it's a constant battle. And my daughter's 17 now, but when she was younger, obviously she did all her sports and dance, and so it's working out. Right, you're dropping her off at an hour's hockey session, so you've got time for an hour's run that day, or you've got so it's just working around everything rather than sort of standing chatting. You take that time and you go for a run. So you just fit it around your life, really. And it's sort of what your priorities are, really. And your long-suffering family have to cope with it.
Yeah, and I'm sure, as you said, they are proud of you. And as you say now, it's interesting because you raise the level, you raise the bar of female ultra running, female 24-hour running now with 3 women beyond the previous world record. What does it mean for you to not only be number 1, but also the world record holder?
It hasn't really sunk in, but yeah, it's fantastic. And I think it's just showing people that you're actually more capable, a lot more capable of things than you think you are, because actually the mind's going to give up before the body. So actually you can push yourself further. And I'm absolutely sure that somebody will break the 280K next time, whether it be me or whether it be they will somebody will break the 280-kilometer record for sure.
Yeah, do you know if you will do another try, or have you even, of course, now it's too early after, but will you continue stepping up, considering you're 46, but obviously you still can perform very well at shorter distances?
I don't think I'll go above 24 hours, not yet anyway. I was discussing Sarah Perry's world record for the backyard ultra, but I think I'm going to leave that one for a few years. At the backyard ultras, although they intrigue me, I think the stopping every lap doesn't suit me. I'd rather just keep going. So I think it's
6
not.
days?
Well, it's not. The backyard ultras isn't a format that would suit me. And yeah, I'd have to do a lot more sleep training for any anything longer than 24 hours. Before doing another 24 hours, I don't know. I think it will depend a lot on what else is going on, what other races come up. Yeah, I mean, part of me wants to do some trail ultras, but I'm not very good at navigating. That's why I like running around in circles. And I don't really do mud.
Jasmine Parrish will keep the Barkley record.
Absolutely, definitely. I don't do mud. I don't do technical downhill. She is incredible. So yes, it will be some very easy, safe trails that if I'm going to do any trail running from that point of view.
But I will leave you soon. But just you mentioned Sarah Perry, who just broke the backyard ultra world record. We talk about Jasmine Paris, who got a lot of attention when she was the first woman to make 5 loops at the Barkley Marathons. Now you break the world record. I mean, for one, what is it with female ultra running in Great Britain? And 2, what kind of shockwaves does this give over Great Britain, or do people even know what you did?
Yeah, well, the media's gone a bit crazy, mostly the running media, but yeah, the BBC and Sky News have also mentioned it, and Chris Evans' breakfast show, which was so I think it's I mean, trail running is becoming really, really popular in the UK, and I think also having a sort of sporting background as well, and trying to get the kids involved at a young age, even if it's not the long distances, just getting them to see what's possible, and hopefully inspiring them to go on and run. Yeah, that's what we'd like. And obviously we got team gold as well, so it wasn't just me. There were 2 other scoring, and 6 of us in total, who all performed to the absolute best of our ability to get that team gold, and apparently team world record as well. So yeah, it's and we did. I think we were 5th behind the men's team. That's amazing.
You were 5th overall as well as an individual, and almost number 4. So Yeah, it was a totally amazing race in so many ways, from you, from the British women, and from Holly Ranson from Australia and Mio Nakata from Japan, who joined you beyond the previous world record. But the one for the history books this time around is Sarah Webster. So congratulations to World Championship Gold and World Record.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on the show.